Welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. Let's get started with our hosts, Linda McKissack and Dana Gentry.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. I'm Linda McKissack.
And I'm Dana Gentry.
Hey, Dana, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. So where are you?
I'm in Kentucky today. I've been here for 2 weeks probably. I feel like I'm going back to Charleston tomorrow, but then Sunday I leave for my girls' trip. We're going to Turks and Caicos, which I meant to ask you if you've been there.
Never. I've always heard about it. Have you been there before?
No, we've never been.
Really? Oh, I haven't either. I've heard about it, but I've never been there.
People say like the most amazing things.
Trying to think, where have we been? We've been to Bora Bora, which is a place I always heard about, but I've never been to Turks and Caicos, but I heard it's great. So y'all will have fun. Now that's an annual thing you do, right? Is it annual? You do that?
Yeah. Me, Heather, Jenny, Matty Oak, Robin Jones, and Tammy Hill, we all go and we pick a year, like one person picks the place and plans. So
That's
somebody
fun.
said to me today, I went to get my hair done today and she said, "Where are you staying?" And I said, "I have no idea." Like I'm just showing up.
Not my role. Well,
Not
I'm
my year.
jealous because I spent the last 5 days in Minnesota and Canada fishing at a fishing lodge that was definitely oversold about how luxurious it was to me. I told Rhonda, we actually got sold a bill of goods by our husbands a year ago.
But you did have electricity though, right?
We did have electricity and we did have an inside bathroom, and to them, apparently that's luxurious. That's
Oh my God.
and they did say massage on the website, so I got a little bit excited. But when we got there was an empty massage chair, but no person to rub you. So that was kind of not a good deal. The only consolation is I did catch the biggest fish that they've caught all year long, which is a 30-inch walleye. So I'm like, that is my surefire way to not get invited back next year, and I can go to a spa or something.
Oh my gosh. I still cannot believe that you caught the biggest fish. That is so good.
I can't either. It's all downhill from here. And of course, I'm so dumb about it. I don't even know that it's like that big a deal until all the men start bragging, All right. So we're back still with the book.
You need to send that to Gary. Did you send that to
No,
Gary?
I didn't, but I will do that.
You've got to send that to Gary.
Yeah, I will do that. I thought about it, but of course we had terrible reception out there. So, but I will send that to him. He will get a kick out of that. So we're back on some of the traits that depend on whether you can be trusted or build trust with people, or you can trust other people. And today we're talking about character, which I loved this part of his book, which, by the way, super excited. We're going to put trust in the show notes so you can order the book. Please go ahead and read it, because before too long, we're going to actually have Dr. Henry Cloud on the podcast, and you are going to not want to miss this guy. He is phenomenal. Super pumped about that.
Really is. He is. And he's been stepping up his game on Instagram. I don't know if you've noticed, like putting videos and reels out, and I'm like, love it. I love every single one. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so good. I'm so glad.
Oh, awesome. I'll have to follow him on Instagram. I'm terrible about that stuff. So, I love this about character where they said persevere through tough season is more than morality. I think, and we talked about this a little bit on when we talked about ability, is sometimes we immediately say, oh, they're a Christian, or they're a trustworthy person, or they don't lie, cheat, or steal. And then we put that above everything else. And I think we think a lot of times that is all there is to character. And it's actually not. This was a very shocking section of his book for me to learn that character is built up of so much more than just those important values.
Well, yeah, the first thing I wrote down was, he said someone sometimes only looks at the value characters, meaning they have integrity. But it's actually like, how are they made up? Like, what is their true makeup? How are they as a person? And, I was sharing with you before we were recording, like that, this is a hard one, I think, to find, to really know about in people, you know what I mean? Until you're with them a while, or I don't know.
Yeah, so true. He said, honesty, of course, first, but without it, there is no character. So we stop at honesty, but it should be the starting point.
That's right.
I mean, it's got to be there, or there is no trust. But then you got to go above and beyond that. It's more, character is more of how a person is constructed. That was interesting to me. And it's so much more of just the things that we probably we look at in a person, right? Like the integrity and all that stuff.
Yeah. I had two things, and I know I want you to read that list too, but I had two things that kind of jumped out to me. Like the first one was, he said, also character, think about who do you need in certain situations. So like when he said that, honestly, I shared this on my Wednesday morning mindset group, and it made me think about, remember when Jimmy choked and you were like trying to find the biggest guy?
Yes. My daughter just said that to me the other day. Mom, you are definitely the person in a crisis I'm going to be trying to find in the crowd. We were at Disney years ago. Our kids were little, and Jimmy chokes on a bone. What's so weird is you just choked like at Thanksgiving. I'm like, good Lord, what is going on here? But this person, I think a woman or somebody jumps up. I don't know. Somebody jumps up and they're starting trying to give him the
I'm like, you can never say that word.
Never say it right. Have to be real careful how it comes out. Anyway, they're not getting it done. So I'm like, whoa, you out, you. So I'm like leading a football team or something or whatever. But anyway, the next person got it done. But
I shared that as my example though, because in certain situations, you need certain people that have a certain makeup. And like, that's the first instance that always pops in, the first example that always pops into my head, because it's true. I mean, like, thankfully Jimmy made it out alive and he was okay. But it's like, which by the way, poor Jimmy, because so many of my funniest things I think about have to do with Jimmy, like the praying out loud, the choking, like there's so many things.
So true. Well, here's the funny thing. At that table, my daughter's freaking out. Of course, they're kids freaking out. Her friend is laughing hysterically.
This is what I do, because that's a nervous protection thing.
Yeah, Press is staring like in awe. So, but you know, when you kind of look at this now, and I think about, okay, so I told this example the other day. I don't think I've even told you this, but you and I and Diana Kokoska went on a trip a couple weeks ago. And the first night, Diana is sick, not feeling good, throwing up in the bathroom. And I'm having like racing heart. So I'm up all night with racing heart. Diana's up throwing up, puking, all the stuff that goes with all that fun stuff. But the next morning we're all up and shopping around and doing different and having lunch with John Addison. And then that next night you get deathly sick.
Yes.
So I'm on the phone with Diana at 5 a.m. in the morning going, okay, we got to get a different plan because we're supposed to take Dr. Henry Cloud in our car to the airport. We got to have a backup plan in case
Dana's car to the airport. Yes.
Dana's car to the airport. And if she doesn't make it, which you would have been totally understood if you had stayed in bed all day. But next thing I know, I'm getting a text from you that says, I'm going to get myself together and get there. You walk in looking like $1 million, of course, like you'd never thrown a day in your life. And so after I leave that trip, I'm thinking, you know what? I'd go to a foxhole with either one of these girls.
Yeah.
Because most people would have weaned out. And I'm sorry for weaning out when you get sick, but you know what I'm saying? I mean, that right there,
totally,
yes. Part about character, I thought, okay, that's a part of a person's makeup that tells you it's going to take a lot to knock them down. Not that they don't ever get knocked down, but if at all possible, they're going to rally, and you want that kind of person. And I always tell the story about us doing SEALFIT years ago.
Yeah.
I always said, man, if I could do SEALFIT on the front end of naming a person to go into a leadership role, it would have told me a lot. SEALFIT, that 3-day immersion thing we did, told me a lot about the people that you're going to be in a foxhole with, right? And I'm sure that's why the military does it, because they want to know how you're going to act in a foxhole or in under stressful situations. So
totally.
I love this. Honestly, this section was one of my favorites because I realized, okay, stop thinking of characters, honest, don't cheat, don't lie, don't steal, all that stuff.
That's high integrity.
Yeah. Then there's virtue, which is courage, you know, a capacity to act, you know, like the thing I did with Jimmy on getting the right person in there to get that bone out of him, you know, knowledge, you know, what knowledge do they know or have? Self-control. This book has really made me look deeper at people.
Yeah, honestly, it does.
I mean,
which can be a really good thing and a scary thing. I mean, you know what I mean? Because it like makes you it makes you look at people deeper.
Well, okay, here's a perfect example. So we were at the fishing lodge last week. So we were playing this game called 5 Crowns, which I'd never played before. It was awesome. I kept throwing away the cards that were the good cards, the ones that were the wild cards. You know, my ADD was all over the place. But interesting thing, Rhonda kept winning, and Kari, who is a supervisor at like a pit boss place. And I sat back and I realized, okay, these guys, and Diana always did good too. I thought, intellectually, these girls are probably really pretty smart. And so in certain situations, that would be super important to have that in a certain role. Does that make sense? And without it, the person might struggle, or they might not do the job as well. Anyway, this book has really made me start looking deeper and start saying, okay, what is it about that person that made them do well at that?
Yeah.
What is that part of their character that they have the ability to do that? So knowledge was also part of it. Self-control. Did they have self-control? Which I thought of the example. Who was the guy that told the example about taking a new hire out to dinner and watch how they and make the waitress mess up? Was that Patrick
Lencioni? Patrick Lencioni. Yeah.
Anyway, so that would be self-control. How can they do they control their temper and things like that? Perseverance, godliness. He said not godliness in the fact that they're ritualistic, but spiritually you feel their godliness. Yeah. And he said the word reverence, meaning a gesture inducted of reprieve. So meaning that's just it's kind of something that happens with that person because you feel and sense their spirituality, not just their religion type, characteristic thing. And then
that's how I want to be. I want people to feel that way about me. Like I think about that all the time. I don't want to like push it, but I want people to just feel spirituality come from me. Yeah.
And then he said brotherly kindness, which I thought was very interesting because some people can be kind to some people, but they are not kind to everybody.
Yeah. I had a huge lesson on that this week, and it has popped up in me like in front of my face, Linda, like 10 times over the last week. And I think it's because I can sometimes be kind of bad with like once I'm trying to like say it without saying it, like once somebody kind of shows me how they are, I can kind of be bad with that because then I'm like, okay, that's kind of how you are. And so I'm just kind of over, you know what I mean? Like, I don't like want to, I feel like we only have so much energy and then I'm like, I'm just not going to put my energy on that. And this happened with somebody. And actually, ironically, you'll find this even funnier. It happened with 2 people over the last week and a half. And one of them, Press, said to me, you just like that. I just think you just need to be nice. Like you should like that. This is who you are, Dana. And he was like, don't let them take you off of like who you are. And I was like, you know what? That's true. And it kept showing up over and over, but it's exactly what you said. It's like, it's really that being kind to everybody, even if there's like certain situations that don't warrant it, and it's like popped up over and over. And maybe for some people that is very easy to do. It does not come easy for me sometimes. Like I have to really work on that. And I'm glad that it's been in my in my Raz or whatever lately, because I'm like, God's trying to tell me something, on that. But that brotherly kindness is, that's a good one.
Yeah. And, I know exactly what you're talking about because and what's funny is I could probably count on one hand in instances where someone has bothered me that bad that I've not been able to control. And I'm kind of kind, but I'm not genuinely.
That's it.
Let it go. Right.
Yes.
I'm going to tell you every time I've regretted it because you got to be able to let it go. Matter of fact, Jimmy said to me the other day about something. He said, you know what the greatest revenge is, right? And I said, what's that? And he goes, making money off of them because this person is making me crazy. And I'm like, that's a really good point. I need to just get over any little thing. And there's very few people that strike me this way. I mean, very, very few, because I do have the ability to just let things roll off. And I always say, I'm going somewhere bigger and brighter. And this matters, right? So as long as I can just keep my eye on that, but I know exactly what you're talking about. That is a real hard thing to do. But super important.
And Milet posted something today that said, if you wouldn't care about it in 5 years, don't give it more than 5 minutes of your thoughts, you know, or something like that. And that kind of goes to what you said, like the bigger, like you're onto like bigger and better things. I think it's just like having a reminder. And I think probably some of that just comes like the more maturity and experience that you have in situations.
Oh, and
with
I'll
people.
tell you something else too. We're talking about therapists, because I went to my therapist the other day and I sent her an SOS. I need you back. Please help me.
I've done that before.
Here's the funny thing. She really opened my eyes to something. She asked me about something, about how I really felt about something. And I told her, and the funny thing is she says, they know that. And I'm like, oh my God, you think they don't know that, but they know that. In other words, I'm thinking,
so true.
So true. You think just because I'm not saying it, or I'm not whatever, I'm holding it in, I'm not doing this. She says, they know. They know. And I'm like, oh crap, you're right. It was such a huge eye opener for me. Well, what got me was I didn't think I felt that way. But when she asked me the right question, I'm like, I guess I do feel that way. And then I think they don't know I feel that way. You know what I mean? So it's really, I mean, that was huge for me, because I thought, okay, Linda, you got to rethink everything. And of course, this was my lesson on empathy again. God, and I'm now reading books on empathy, because I'm like, I've got to figure this empathy thing out, because I don't have it nailed. It is my nemesis this year, is truly understanding empathy and being able to give it in all situations, not just few. Mm-hmm. So that was a huge, huge thing for me. And I think all of this, I mean, really ties into that. He also said love, acting with you know, just acting with love, and then EQ. And EQ comes up a lot in fierce conversations. So I think that's a good one. But I think trust is multidimensional, but there was a key part. I want to read it as we wrap up here on this one, unless you have something else you want to add to it. But I love this part that said there are also traits that get in the way of the trust needed for relationships to go well or business to get done. So here are the ones he said. Defensive, maybe this is going to hit what you and I were just talking about. Defensiveness. What happens when you feel you cannot point out a problem to someone, or you need them to change a behavior? They are defensive. Conflicts are very difficult to resolve, and corrections are a nightmare. Wow. It's huge. Anger. Either personally or in work. Who is prone to anger, outbursts, rage, and explosiveness? Those get in the way of any kind of trust. Often people will say it's just better not to trust them at all, because you don't know what, you don't know how they're going to act. Narcissism. Where do we even begin when we talk about that? He says, the person's drive to always be seen as wonderful and perfect and ideal wears thin in the best of scenarios. Drama and emotional instability. It's hard to trust someone, he says, when you don't know what kind of theater you will get on any given day. That was huge.
Yeah, that's so true.
Control. Many highly competent, high qualified people have a strong, aggressive drive to get things done and to accomplish a lot. But along with this, there can come a strong tendency to try to be in control of everything. So that was big.
I think that's a huge one. I feel like for just our whole world, because so many of people are high drivers around us, which means they want to have control.
Neediness and dependency. You know, we're all going to have to depend on each other, he says, but some people are overly needy and really can't do a mutual adult relationship well at all. Irresponsibility. I love he tied so much of his stuff back to the Bible. As Proverbs say, to depend on an irresponsible person is a nightmare. Vinegar to the teeth and smoke to the eyes. So is the slacker of those who send him. So you depend on them and they just drop the ball. So that's another one that irresponsibility gets in people's way. You know, one of my pet peeves is if you know something about yourself, like forgetting something, like it drives, my highest responsibility. So if I tell someone that I'm going to call them back, it stays with me and I cannot stand it until I get that done. However, I see people all the time that just doesn't seem like it bothers them at all. I'm like, okay. Or they'll just say, well, and Jimmy will do this sometimes. Well, I just forgot. I'm like, well, okay, but you're going to forget, because like put a stick in the front door, do something. So
Yeah.
I think irresponsibility is something that people over time, if they start to feel like they can't, you're irresponsible
Yeah.
on something you say you're going to do, then they don't have trust.
Yeah.
Codependency or lack of boundaries. Someone who just can't say no.
Yeah.
On the front end, that might sound like something good, but in the back end, it really isn't, right? And then gossip or divisive behavior. So those
Yeah.
are the things I thought were super important to pay attention to, because these are all the things that get in the way of trust.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are all great. I just wrote all those down too, because I haven't gotten to that part yet, or I missed that part.
No,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I don't know which section you're on, but yeah, I to me, I just thought, this, I don't know, but there should be like a workbook off of this thing, or something. This should
Really,
go.
I know. We'll have to tell him that when he comes on the podcast.
Yeah. Well, this is one of the to me, this will go right up there with one of my most impactful books. I don't know if it's because
Me
I'm
too.
ready for the message, or
Yeah.
it's something that's important, but it's kind of like fierce conversations. Conversations are super important, but until Susan Scott and other people went deep on it, no one really, there were issues in it, but no one thought about why are there issues in it. And this is the same thing with trust. Trust is super important. It's way up there, but no one's actually spelled out the key components and where you might be going off the rails, or somebody else might be going off the rails.
And to be honest, Linda, before we went, like, I'm not one of those people that has a trust problem. I'm not like really suspicious of people, or like have a hard time trusting people. Now, once somebody kind of shows me something, then I might, but on the forefront, I'm pretty initially trusting. So I wouldn't say like I have an issue with trust. And originally when I saw the book, I kind of thought that. I thought, I don't really have a big issue with trust. So I don't know if I'm going to like this or not. It was total opposite of like what I thought. You know what I mean? It's just made me think so much more and learn so much more about, not, even though I'm not like that on the front end, how to course correct it so that once I'm in and something happens, like, how do I go back and make it right, or build the trust again? And I think that's always more important than even if you have a hard time trust. Either way, the book is great. But it's also like, even if you're one of those people that you do trust people in the beginning until they show you something, at some point, someone's going to break your trust. And so it's like figuring out these steps really show you how to push through that.
Yeah. Or, how to make sure that whatever your makeup is you're allowing people to be able to trust you.
Exactly. Yeah, totally.
All right. Any
Really
final
good.
thoughts? I don't know what our next one is, but we'll finish up next week. Is next week the last one?
Next week's the last one. Yep. And it's track record. It's someone's track record.
Track record.
So we'll talk all about the importance of that when you trust somebody.
Awesome. Great. Well, remember, if you have not hit the subscribe button, please go ahead and do that now. And if you have a challenge, a question, or a topic, or a guest that you would like to see on the podcast, reach out to us at info@everything life in real estate. And remember, the greatest compliment you can give us is a 5-star review and passing this along to someone that you think that would benefit from these conversations. So Dana, I guess I'll see you. Oh, I don't know if I'll see you going on your girls trip, but I'll see you after you get back from your girls trip.
That's right. Yes.
All right. See you then.
See you then.
Be sure to subscribe for more business strategies and tactics to inspire you to live an abundant real estate life. Don't forget to rate and review so we can bring you the best content. Find this and other valuable information at everythinglifeandrealestate.com.